We'll see them in court.
Wait a second. They are refusing to apologize for disrespecting the president and the American people.
We are going to ensure that truth and accuracy is present.
If you thought Karoline Leavitt was going to let The View get away with smearing her name the first time, think again. Karoline has filed another lawsuit against The View, and they are having a major breakdown. This woman is on a mission, and she's not backing down. The first lawsuit was already a bombshell, exposing The View's hypocrisy, their underhanded tactics, and the blatant lies they told about her.
And how, women didn't have the right to vote or own property and all of that. That has nothing to do with wokeness, which is, of course, about putting people in there because of their immutable characteristics rather than the merit that they bring to the table.
Filing a second lawsuit that's sending the show into absolute chaos. It all started when The View, led by their usual self-righteous, condescending panel, thought they could trash Karoline without any consequences. They spread false claims, misrepresented her words, and did their usual routine of mocking and belittling a conservative voice. They've done it before. The View has a long history of treating conservatives like dirt, shutting them down mid-sentence, twisting their words, and painting them as villains. But this time, they picked the wrong target.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table.
Karoline wasn't about to sit there and take it. She fired back with a lawsuit that sent shockwaves through ABC. She accused The View of defamation, claiming their false statements damaged her career and reputation, and she had every right to do it. The lawsuit exposed the show's dirty tactics. Not only had they trashed her on air, but they had also worked behind the scenes to blacklist her from appearing on other networks. Her legal team had the evidence to back it up, and suddenly, The View wasn't looking so untouchable anymore. At first, ABC tried to handle the situation quietly, thinking a weak PR statement would be enough to make the whole thing disappear, but they underestimated Karoline. Conservative media picked up the story, the public got involved, and suddenly, Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar had no choice but to address it. Instead of taking responsibility, they brushed it off like it was nothing. Whoopi even scoffed on air, acting like Karoline was just another conservative trying to play the victim. Big mistake.
Whoopi is mansplaining the press secretary job to Karoline Leavitt. Hilarious.
Because Karoline wasn't done. The first lawsuit was only the beginning. Just when The View thought they were in the clear, Karoline came back swinging. The second lawsuit wasn't just about defamation anymore. It was about exposing the toxic, coordinated efforts The View had taken to destroy her reputation. This time, the accusations were even more serious. Workplace harassment, reputational sabotage, and a behind-the-scenes smear campaign orchestrated by the show's hosts and producers.
To hear you talk about it, and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
And Karoline wasn't just making claims, she had proof. Emails, text messages, insider testimonies, all showing how The View had worked behind closed doors to blacklist her from the media industry. Leaked messages revealed that producers were actively discussing ways to push false narratives about her. They had even reached out to other networks, making sure Karoline wouldn't be invited as a guest. This wasn't just a case of media bias. This was an all-out effort to silence her.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
On top of that, Karoline's legal team wasn't just asking for an apology for what The View hosts said. They were going after a financial settlement so massive it could send shockwaves through ABC. We're talking millions of dollars in damages, an amount that could put The View in serious jeopardy. This wasn't just about one woman fighting back, this was about holding the media accountable, and Karoline was proving that she wasn't afraid to take on one of the most powerful liberal talk shows on television. The moment news of Karoline's second lawsuit hit, The View reportedly descended into full-on panic mode. Whoopi Goldberg was the first to find out, getting a frantic call from an ABC executive just minutes before stepping onto the set. Her reaction, pure rage. She stormed off to her dressing room, slamming the door, demanding answers from producers, and shouting, "Seriously? How did this happen again?" She thought the controversy was over. She thought Karoline would just go away. Instead, she had just walked into an even bigger nightmare.
I think in their bubble of the audience that The View speaks to, that's probably kind of what the group think is. So one defense, I guess, is that she was speaking to her audience, but you take it outside of that bubble the way you are right now, and we all can see what it is.
Meanwhile, Joy Behar, ever the arrogant loudmouth, laughed it off at first, dismissing the lawsuit as a joke. But that didn't last long. As soon as she started reading through the legal documents, her smug confidence crumbled. She reportedly started making panicked calls to ABC executives, demanding to know what they were going to do about it. One source even overheard her ranting to producers. "How long are we supposed to put up with this? She's making a career out of coming after us." That's when it hit her. This wasn't just some temporary PR crisis. This was a legal battle that could take The View down for good. Behind the scenes, things went from bad to worse. Sunny Hostin, the so-called legal expert of the panel, was furious that they hadn't been warned about this lawsuit sooner. Alyssa Farah Griffin, the token conservative on the show, reportedly sat in stunned silence, realizing just how deep in trouble the show was. And Sarah Haynes, she kept checking her phone, clearly hoping for some kind of PR miracle to make this all go away.
I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
Producers were scrambling, emails were flying, phones were ringing nonstop. ABC's legal team was called in for an emergency meeting, and yet no one had any answers. At ABC headquarters, the panic was just as intense. Executives were scrambling, knowing full well that this lawsuit was far more serious than the first one. The legal team knew they had a problem. Karoline's lawsuit wasn't vague. It wasn't just media drama. It was a well-structured legal case packed with actual evidence. Emails, recordings, insider testimony, all proving that The View had been operating like a smear machine.
She was conflating two ideas. This word wokeness didn't look like she really understood what it meant, or certainly the way Karoline Leavitt meant it when she made that statement, and she was conflating it with civil rights.
ABC executives tried their usual playbook. First, they told The View hosts to downplay the lawsuit on air. Second, they ordered them not to mention Karoline's name at all. And third, they reached out to Karoline's team, hoping they could settle the matter quietly. But Karoline wasn't interested in settling. When an ABC representative contacted her legal team, they got a brutal response. "We'll see you in court." ABC was staring down a lawsuit that could cost them millions. Advertisers started getting nervous. Ratings were already dipping. The network was beginning to ask the unthinkable. Was it worth keeping Whoopi and Joy around if they were dragging the entire show down? The truth is, The View has been playing this game for years, pushing their one-sided agenda, silencing conservative voices, and pretending they're the moral authority of daytime TV. But now, they've finally met someone who won't back down. Karoline Leavitt has exposed them for what they really are: bitter, biased, and completely out of control.
Disgusting Joy Behar of The View accuses Karoline Leavitt of being hired only because Donald Trump thought she was a 10. Karoline Leavitt actually comes with real job qualifications, unlike Biden's DEI hires Joyless Behar.
The second Karoline's lawsuit hit the headlines, social media erupted. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, was flooded with posts tearing The View apart. The hashtags The View Exposed, Justice for Karoline, and ABC in Crisis were trending almost immediately. Conservatives and free speech advocates didn't hold back, calling out The View for their blatant hypocrisy and years of bullying anyone who dared to disagree with their one-sided narrative. Even people who don't usually follow politics were chiming in, pointing out how ridiculous it was that a supposedly open discussion show was now being sued for actively silencing someone. Then came the memes. Oh, the memes. Within hours, the internet was flooded with Whoopi Goldberg edited onto the Titanic with The View sinking in the background. Another showed Joy Behar fake laughing with the caption, "Joy when she realizes she might actually get fired this time." There was even a clip of Whoopi storming off set, but this time with the words, "running away from accountability since 2007. It was brutal. It was hilarious. And The View had no way to spin it.
Whoopi is mansplaining the press secretary job to Karoline Leavitt. Hilarious.
The media response was even more telling. Conservative outlets like Fox News, The Daily Wire, and Newsmax covered every second of the lawsuit, analyzing how this could be the scandal that finally brings The View down. One Fox News host even said, "This isn't just another celebrity lawsuit. This is a reckoning for mainstream media." Meanwhile, The Daily Wire ran a headline that summed it all up. The View hosts are in full meltdown mode, and Karoline Leavitt isn't letting up. And what about the left-wing media? Well, they did exactly what you'd expect, tried to downplay it. CNN called it a conservative legal stunt. MSNBC claimed Karoline was weaponizing the legal system. The New York Times even suggested that powerful conservative figures were behind the lawsuit, as if Karoline, a woman with a spine of steel, couldn't fight her own battles. But the problem for them, nobody was buying it.
Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness.
Here's the thing. This lawsuit isn't just embarrassing for The View, it's dangerous for them. And I'm not talking about just reputational damage, which is already catastrophic. I'm talking about real, financial, game-changing consequences. There's the lawsuit itself. Karoline isn't asking for a slap on the wrist. She's going after millions. If she wins, The View could be forced to fork over a sum so massive that ABC executives will have no choice but to start making serious cuts. And let's be real, a show that's already struggling with ratings can't afford a financial disaster like this. Advertisers are already panicking, and some are reportedly reconsidering their contracts. For a daytime talk show, losing advertiser money is like cutting off oxygen. The moment sponsors pull out, the network starts asking the hard questions, like, is this show even worth keeping?
Saying Karoline Leavitt was only hired by Donald Trump because she's a 10. You know that what it is. Actually, she's quite capable, unlike the last press secretary who was only hired because she was a black lesbian.
And then there's the ratings. The View has been on shaky ground for a while now. The only thing keeping them somewhat relevant is their constant controversy. People tune in to see what dumb thing Whoopi or Joy will say next. But this lawsuit? This kind of scandal doesn't attract viewers. It drives them away. Conservatives who already despise The View will feel more vindicated than ever. And even some liberals will start wondering if the show has finally crossed a line it can't come back from. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.